Hi, people. We are looking at notes on adding and subtracting rational numbers or fractions. And the most important thing that we need to know is that when we add or subtract fractions, you always have to have a common denominator. Okay, and some important notes as we go through this. First of all, you need to make sure you change any double signs into a single sign, which is something that we talked about in class. Okay, so if you have minus a negative, change that to a positive. If you have plus a negative, change that to a minus sign. Only combine numbers in the numerator. Remember, just so that you all know, just a reminder, when you have a fraction, the top number is the numerator and the bottom number is the denominator, okay? And we're going to keep the denominator the same. But with negative numbers, only the numerator or the denominator are negative. What do I mean by that? So let's say, for example, we have the number 2/3, but that 2/3 is negative. So either we can say that it is -2 over +3, because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Or we could say it's +2 over -3 because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. We cannot say that both numbers are negative because if you were to do -2 divided by -3, the double negatives would become a positive. So this would be incorrect. So only one of the numbers, either the numerator or the denominator, is allowed to be negative, but not both. So it's easier to make the numerator negative because if you do that, you'll keep the denominator common, which we always want. We always want that common denominator. So if your denominator is always positive, that'll help us to make sure that our denominators are common, okay? And then lastly, we need to make sure to simplify or reduce your final answer. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is look at this example in the number line and using a picture. So our example is -2/7 plus 6/7. So if you notice here, our first number that we have here is -2/7. And on our number line, each one of these little tick marks represents a seventh. So see here, 0, and then a tick mark, and then 2/7. So this is a seventh, another seventh, and we're going through right here. If you notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 brings us to one whole, which is 7 out of 7. Okay, awesome. So I'm starting at -2/7, which is on the left side of 0. So I'm going to start right here. And then this is saying that I'm going to add 6/7. So since I'm adding 6/7, that means that I'm going to go to the right. So I'm going to go 6/7 to the right. 1/7, 2/7, 3/7, 4/7, 5/7, 6/7. And if you notice, I end up at a positive 4/7. So 4/7 is my answer here. Now, you also have an option of drawing a picture of this. So let's say, let's start with the 6/7 first. So I'm going to take a whole piece of something, okay, and I'm going to break it up into sevenths. So if you notice here, I have 7 pieces right here, but I only am going to use 6 of those 7 pieces to start off with because this is 6/7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is what I have. Now here I'm going to take away 2 pieces because this right here is saying -2/7. So I'm going to take away 2 of those sevenths. And when I do that, I am left over with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 sevenths, 4 pieces that are each equal to 1/7 of my bar. Okay, so that means that my final answer would be 4/7. Now, here's the thing though, I don't expect that you are going to draw a picture or draw a number line every single time. So this is just for you to get an understanding of what to do. And once we have our understanding, then we can just start to kind of do this a little bit more quickly. So since they both have the same denominator of 7, I know that my answer is going to have a denominator of 7. Now, if you notice here, the negative 2 sevenths, only one of these numbers is allowed to be negative, and I will choose to make the negative on the numerator. So essentially, I just have to do negative 2 plus 6. So you can just figure that out, or you can use the scoreboard. So team negative 1, 2 points, team positive 1, 6 points. So team positive 1 by 4 points, and that's why 4 sevenths is the right answer. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these examples that we have here. So our first example says 1/10 minus 7/10. So to start off with, I have the same denominator, which is nice. I don't have to worry about getting that common denominator. So I know my final answer will have a 10 in my denominator. Remember, I'm going to keep both my denominators positive. Now here, this 1 has to be positive because the whole number is positive, but here the 7 is negative, so we have 1 minus 7, and 1 minus 7 is negative 6. Again, you can do the scoreboard, or you can just use the rules if you are comfortable with the rules. So here I start with, so here team positive got 1 point, team negative got 7 points, so team negative won by 6 points. Amazing. Now, last thing though is we have to make sure that we remember to simplify or reduce our final answer. So looking here, I can see that 6 and 10 are both divisible by 2. So when I divide 6 by 2, I get negative 3. And when I divide 10 by 2, I get positive 5. So my final answer here is negative 3/5. All right, awesome. Next one right here, we have a double sign. Negative 1/16 minus negative 5/16. I don't like this double sign. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative 1/16 plus 5/16. But the good news is we have a common denominator, which is 16. So I know that I'm going to have 16 in my final answer. And now I just have to figure out, well, what's negative 1 plus 5? And negative 1 plus 5 is 4. So here I can say that my answer is 4/16, but when I reduce it, I have to see, well, what's in common? Well, they're both divisible by 4. I can divide 4 and 16 by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, 16 divided by 4 is 4. So my final answer here is 1/4. Now, let's say really quickly, quick note, you don't have to write this down, but I do want to just talk about this. Let's say you say, oh, they're both divisible by 2, which is absolutely true. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Just make sure when you're done that you've simplified this as far as you can go. Because here, if you take a look, 2 and 8 are also both divisible by 2. And so when I divide 2 by 2, I get 1. When I divide 8 by 2, I get 4. So I still get the same answer right here. Okay, in our last example, negative 8 over 17 minus 2 over 17, they both have a denominator of 17. So I know that my answer here will have a denominator of 17, which is quite nice. And now I just have to do negative 8. Remember, the numerator is going to be the negative number, minus 2. So team negative won the 8 points, team negative won the 2 points, so team negative won 10 points. So my answer right here is negative 10 over 17. Now negative 10 and 17 have nothing in common, so this is the final answer. Okay, in our next example here, we don't have a common denominator. So 7/3 plus 5/8, there's no common denominator. So we want to find out what that common denominator is. What's a number that I can change a 3 and an 8 into using multiplication? And that number will be the least common multiple. So some multiples of 3 would be like 3, 6, 8, sorry, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, so on and so forth. If you notice, I'm just adding 3 every single time, okay? And then some factors of 8 would be 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, etc. But what number is the smallest number in common in both of these lists? That number is 24. So this 24 right here is going to be 8 times 3. So I've got 8 times 3 here. That's how I get that number. And then this number right here is also 8 times 3. So in order to get this common denominator of 24, I have to see what number is missing. So I know it's going to be out of 24 here, and I know this is going to be out of 24 here. But I can't just go through and change this 3 to a 24. That's not allowed. So I have to ask myself, what can I multiply 3 by that will give me 24? And that number is 8. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 7 times 8 is 56. Now, quick note, these two numbers right here are equivalent to each other. Okay, so we haven't changed that 7/3. We're just writing it in a different way. And I'm actually about to draw a picture for you so you can see where this is coming from. Okay, as well as we have to do the same thing with this fraction right here. So the denominator here is 8. I need a denominator of 24, so I can multiply 8 by 3. Whatever I do to the denominator, I also have to do to the numerator. The reason why I'm allowed to do this is because 3 divided by 3 is 1, and when I multiply any number by 1, it's the exact same number. I'm just writing it in a different way. So 5 times 3 right here is 15. Again, these are equivalent. The next thing I need to do is just add my numerators. So 56 and 15, when I add those two numbers together, I end up getting 71 out of 24. And the good news is we can leave our answers as improper fractions. We're totally fine with that. Let me show you a visual of what's going on here. So this 7/3 that I have here, I'm going to draw this out using bars, okay? So 7/3, I'm going to break my bar up into thirds. So if you notice here, I have 1, 2, 3 thirds, okay, or a whole. I need to get up to 7, so I'll draw another one. So here I've got 4, 5, and 6. I still haven't gotten to what I need to get to, so now I'm going to go to one more bar, and here I can see I have 7. So if you notice, this right here, everything that I'm coloring in yellow right here, this is going to represent the 7/3 right here, okay? And then I'm going to create another bar that's the exact same size as the other ones right here because each one of these represents a whole and I want my wholes to be equal. And if you notice here, if I've got 5/8, I'm going to split that up into, I'm going to split the bar up into 8 equal pieces. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 8. Now, here's the thing. I can't add these things together, these little strips together, because they're not the same size. So what I can do now is I can actually go through and break this one up vertically the same way I broke this one up. Okay, so if I do that, I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here, if you notice, I have 24 bars. And I've highlighted 24 out of the 24 bars. So if you look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I count up all these little boxes, I've got 24 little boxes. And then I'm going to do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here I've got 24 out of 24 boxes. And then if you look here, I have just the top row is highlighted and there are 8 little boxes in that top row. So this is 8 out of 24. Okay, and then if I were to take this bar right here and break this one up horizontally into those 3 horizontal pieces, 1, 2, 3, and look and see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each row, 3 rows, so this is 15 out of 24. So if you notice here, this will give me that 56 out of 24. When I add 24 plus 24 plus 8, I get this 56 that we got right here. And then here we've got that 15 out of 24 that we got right here. For the sake of time, we'll skip 5 right now and we'll talk about that in class. Let's look at number 6. So in number 6, it says -3/5 plus 6. Now this denominator right here is an invisible denominator of 1. So it's plus 6/1. So what is my least common denominator? Well, what's in common with 5 and what's a multiple of 5 and 1 that's in common? It's going to be 5. So the nice thing is this -3/5 stays the same. I don't have to do anything to it at all, but the 6 over 1, I can multiply the denominator by 5, and so to get that common denominator of 5, and whatever I do to the numerator, I do, sorry, to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. And now I'm going to have a final answer with a denominator of 5, and I just have to add -3 plus 30 together, and that gives me positive 27. So my answer here is 27/5. Okay, on the next page, it says if you have mixed fractions, it's easier to change them into improper fractions. And I'm going to explain to you why in this example right here in question number 7. But first of all, we have a double sign that we just do not want, so we're going to get rid of that double sign. Sorry, if we have plus a negative, it becomes a minus sign. So this becomes 2 and 7/8 minus 3 and 5/8. Now, the reason why we want to make it an improper fraction is because this whole thing is being subtracted. So the minus sign applies to the 3 and to the 5/8, and that can get confusing sometimes. So sometimes it's easier to just change it to a single improper fraction, and then we're good to go. So right here, what does 2 and 7/8 mean? Well, what this is saying is that I have 2 whole bars, and then I have another bar that is 7/8 full. So 2 whole bars plus another bar that is almost full, but 1/8 of it is missing. So right here, I'm going to split these two up the same way that I split this up into 8 equal pieces. So if you take a look right here, we've got 8 out of 8, which is a whole. We have another 8 out of 8, which is a whole, and then we have 7 out of 8. Well, altogether, this right here would give me 16 out of 8, plus another 7 out of 8. So altogether, I have 23/8. Okay? But a quick way to do this, because we're not going to always want to draw this out every single time. So a quick way to do this is just multiply the 2 by the 8 right here. But the reason why, I don't want you to just do it. I want you to understand why you're doing it. So the reason why is because we have 2 bars. And if I break my bars up into eighths, there are 16 pieces out of 8 to make 2 wholes. Okay, and then so we would do the 2 times the 8, and then we just add this numerator right here, which is 7. So right here, this becomes 23 out of 8. And sorry, if you drew this on your paper, I apologize. You don't need to draw the next piece. You don't have to worry about squeezing it in. Okay, now the next piece is saying 3 and 5/8. So same idea here, okay? We've got 3 wholes this time. And then in our last whole, we have 5 out of 8 pieces used. But this is all filled, this is all filled, this is all filled, and then we will change this into, pretend by the way that all of these bars are the same size, okay? We will change this into eighths right here. So if you notice here, this is 8 out of 8, another 8 out of 8, another 8 out of 8, and then 5 out of 8. So the shortcut is just 8 plus 8 plus 8. We've got 24 out of 8 plus another 5 out of 8. So altogether, that's 29 out of 8. What can we do quickly? Just 3 times 8 right here, and then add that numerator of 5 right here. So this would be minus 29 over 8. Since we have a common denominator right here, my denominator is going to be 8. And now I just have to figure out what 23 minus 29 is, which is -6. Lastly, I just have to see what's in common with 6 and 8. They're both divisible by 2. So when I divide -6 by 2, I get -3. When I divide 8 by 2, I get 4. So my final answer here is -3/4. Okay, for the sake of time, we're going to skip questions 8 and 9. We'll talk about that together in class. But for number 10, let's go ahead and see what we need to do. So first thing, I want to get rid of any double signs. So this minus a negative will become a positive. And then I can just copy down this problem as I see it. So negative 4/5 plus 8 plus 3.5. Now, I'm going to rewrite this 3.5 as an improper fraction. I don't have to do with negative 4/5 because it's already because it's not improper. The 8, I can just write it as 8 over 1, and then 3.5, just do 3 times 2, which is 6, and then add that 1, so I end up getting 7. So this right here is 7, or negative 4 over 5 plus 8 over 1 plus 7 over 2. Now I need to find my least common denominator. So some multiples of 5 would be like 5, 10, 15, 20. And some multiples of 2 would be like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, so on and so forth. So the smallest multiple in common is 10. So all I have to do here is multiply each one of my fractions by whatever's missing to get to this number that I want to get to, which is this 10. This 10 right here is really important. So what can I multiply 5 by to get to 10? It is a 2. Whatever I do to the denominator, I also have to do to the numerator because I'm not changing the number, I'm just rewriting an equivalent number. Just a reminder also that we will make the numerator negative. That's easier. So this becomes negative 8/10. Okay? In this next fraction, what can I multiply 1 by that will get me to 10? 10. But whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So this becomes 80 over 10. And then lastly, this number right here, this 2, I would multiply by 5. Whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. I multiply by 5 because 2 times 5 is 10. And then 7 times 5 is 35. So I know that my final answer will have that denominator of 10. And now I just have to figure out, well, what's negative 8 plus 80 plus 35? So negative 8 plus 80 is 72. And then 72 plus 35 is 107. So my answer here would be 107 over 10. And that's it for this video. We'll do 8 and 9 together next time I see you in class. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in class. Have a great night. Bye.